This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the president of Palamina Corp, Mr. Andrew Thomson. Andrew, it has been a bit. We are overdue for a catch-up. First and foremost, how are you today, sir?
I'm great. How are you doing, Gerardo?
I am well. Thank you so much for asking. You have been busy. I could go back to June. You completed a $5 million private placement. I can tell you that the quality of the projects was acknowledged, obviously, by one Mr. Eric Sprott and Goldspot, among others. Let's start there, and then let's get to a milestone moment that's been years in the making for us that have been patiently watching, which is, the turning of the drills here shortly. Let's talk the financing. Tell me a little bit about it.
So we did a private placement, and Eric Spot participated for 12%, Goldspot 3%. My wife and I put in 200,000, so we maintained our interest. With the key, what would you call it, event coming forward, being that we're going to start drilling on our flagship property, Usacayos. We did change the name. We had wanted to change the name previously, but we had to wait till all the applications went through. It was formerly known as Coasa, but the big thing here in the inflection point really is that, we've got a diamond drill on site and it's about to start turning. So we're really going to test the Veta zone. So in terms of the financing itself, we paid all of $12,000 in commission and 6% broker reward. So it should tell you that there was very good appetite for it. We were oversubscribed. And I'm pretty excited, actually, because with Goldspot, we're now taking all of our data and inputting it in. While there isn't a lot of data, there is a lot of data on the Puna orogenic belt. And we're really taking a bigger look at this whole area to try and better understand what's going on, in terms of structure, et cetera. And I do feel that it's going to add a lot of value as we move forward. So I'm excited to work with them. They sort of build themselves as, for anybody who's not familiar with Goldspot, they use algorithmic mapping. They take all your data and input it into their system. And, they sort of bill it as being kind of a Newmont back end. And we actually do appreciate that and feel that no one else has done that here. So not unlike when we flew the belt, this is something we think will add real value as we move forward.
Well, and I got to believe the quality of the data leads to better outcomes, right? I know that obviously they've been extremely successful. In particular, the one that really stands out is the success as it relates to newfound gold, right?
Yeah, I will say that it's a orogenic Devonian age project, as is our Usacayos project. So there are some, it's not the same belt or the same, there are some relationships there that I think we'll be able to utilize. I mean, that was part of the attraction for them, is that we're in the same age of rock and the same type of system. So, in terms of moving forward, I think we'll be able to garner some of what they've understood from their system. They're obviously hitting some pretty decent holes.
That's an understatement. Let's get into what the drill program will consist of at Usacayos. I understand you had planned for 2,600. Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
So we're going to try and get 3,000 meters done.
Excellent.
We have until mid-November, and we think we can get that completed. Initially, we had planned on doing 12 holes. We've actually, you need to be 50 meters from a stream in Peru, and there's a stream running through the main Veta area. So we've reconfigured it. So we'll be initially drilling from 6 pads to test, and we're actually going to drill deeper holes. And it has a bit to do with the orientation of the topography, et cetera. But we're pretty confident. There's 8 different perceived mineralized structures at surface, and some of them disappear underground. And we really haven't done a lot of trenching. We spent a small fortune on geochem, and obviously we've flown it, so we have a good idea of where the structures are. So these holes we perceive they're also going to test structures that we think are at just below surface. And so it's actually pretty exciting. We hired a new geologist in country, an ex-Rio Tinto guy named Nigel Chapman, to assist, because we obviously Bill McGinty, our lead VP, can't travel there, and he's doing it. He's on site in the next week. He's going to, for the first set of drill holes, he's going to watch how the core goes down the hill. And again, we've got a new setup in Juliaca where we can store up to, I think, probably about 50,000 meters of core. I actually haven't been there to see it. I'm going down at the beginning of September.
And let's be absolutely clear. You've done some really high quality work with the field programs. You've sampled up to, I think, 620 grams per ton
Yeah.
gold, if I'm not mistaken, right? There was another channel sample up to 123 grams per ton over 1 meter. This is exploration at its finest, right, Andrew?
Well, these orogenic systems tend to be thin vein, high grade, and I'm fairly certain, based on the amount of sampling we've done, we're going to intercept some of those grades. But we're really looking for continuity, and we've spent a fair amount of time vein counting and looking at these structures to figure out where there could be a deposit. We're not ruling out open pit, but the likelihood is that it will be an underground deposit. It just depends on what Mother Nature's provided. Obviously, Crucero on our flank provides some insight, as does Oyachea, which is 60 kilometers to the west. And then there's Rinconada to the east, which is probably a 15 million ounce deposit. So there's just different ways of looking at it. But until you put the drill into the ground, you really don't know. So this is, the start. It could be the start of something quite interesting. And I guess our best channel was 3 meters at 30 grams. So we are seeing, you really need 6 meters of 6 grams for underground. So we have seen areas to the west that definitely support that. So, we're just getting started is really what it amounts to.
Far from a one-trick pony, you've put together how many district-scale gold projects in Peru now, Andrew?
Well, we have the one that we sold to Shear, and that one, they filed their DIA since we last talked, so they're getting ready to drill as well. And the key there is that, not unlike Usacayos, they've got 2 kilometers of strike. So we're the thing that I'm most impressed with is the size of these mineralized systems. They're fairly large, and again, the top 40 meters have been ground truth by informals, and there's a lot of visible gold and high grade. So it's really, and on a drill basis, most of what's been drilled in the belt has either gone into production or has 1 million ounces. So again, it's taken us a long time. There's more political risk and less geologic risk. Now we're going to put a drill hole in the ground to figure it out.
Before I let you go, I have to ask you about the political risk. How are things in Peru? You've done a really good job of trying to get ahead of community relations, even before the instability. But how do you see things?
Well, again, we had to rename the project, and the community asked us to wait for the resolution from government. And I can say that the new elected government is very left-leaning, and in all of this, it's been a bit of a mess. In the last year, they had 3 presidents, and then the most recent president really has never governed anything. So there's going to be more of the same. But for the companies that are established in Peru that are exploration, I don't think there's going to be a big impact. And I actually think we may stand out a little bit if gold turns around and goes much higher, because, again, Mexico is a good example of a country that's nationalized, but a lot of the juniors are doing exceedingly well in the marketplace versus the production deals. So I do think that, when you look at Chile and some of the things that are going on with copper in terms of royalties, I think you're going to see some of that with the new government. But, quite frankly, I won't be surprised if Castillo, who's the new guy that's come in, Pedro Castillo, the new president, if it takes his time, and if there aren't serious problems, because he's simply, in terms of just even electing his cabinet and putting people in place, he's had issues. So it's still a real mess. But again, at these copper prices and gold prices and silver prices, I don't think it's going to change that much for the juniors that are active there.
And I understand the drills will be turning within the next few days. That's the expectation.
Yeah, they sent the wrong size rods, so we've got a number of them that are moving up the hill, so to speak, and we've got, I think, 11 horses moving stuff up and down, and we're having a little bit of growing pains, but at the end of the day, we're just waiting for some rods to come in to be able to get going. I'm told that it'll be no less than 5 days in terms of getting them to site and up the hill. So that's really what we're waiting on. But other than that, there's no issues with community. Everybody's happy. We're employing quite a few people because it's a man-portable program where there's at least 50 people walking up and down the hill every day. So there's a lot of activity, and we're fully set up now in Juliaca. So in terms of having the core facility, and it's only 800 meters from the Certamen lab where they do the prep work. So I think the good news is there's lots of drills available, and there's I think our turnaround time on assays is going to be less than 10 days.
Well, that's exciting. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you for that update. Anything else you'd like to add, Andrew?
Well, I think everybody should know we have 18.6% equity in Shear, and we are in the middle of an arbitration on their orogenic S&P gold deposit. And a third party that is part of the arbitration came out with a 124.7 million number as damages. And, again, that property was expropriated, but I do think that it provides, within that, we think the decision at least will be, within the first quarter of 2023. So it's not that far off. And I do think there is an underlying value to that company that people aren't appreciating. And I think if you look at the news release that talks about that, the interest is rolling at the same time. So, for me, it provides a little bit of a backing if you want, because I do think that we have a good chance of, it's very well funded. We never announced the amount, but I do think there's some upside there.
And just to be clear, the market cap of Palamina today stands at?
We're just above 20 million, I think. We got as high as, I think, 24 million, but it's 20 million Canadian, give or take.
And just over a quarter of that is backed by cash.
Yep, I would say.
Good.
Yeah, and then we have the equity as well in Shear, but it more or less it adds up to about 5 million Canadian.
Excellent. Andrew, great update. Look forward to the drill program. Look forward to the assays. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Roberto.